is our obligation to inform and alert the American people, to make certain that they possess all the facts that they need and understand them as well, the perils, the prospects, the purposes of our program, and the choices that we face.
You have tuned into another episode of Ultra MK Podcast, where together we are reversing the narrative. And today I have a new guest on the show. We were just connected recently through some patriot groups in California who have been tirelessly working with the recall efforts in California to recall Gavin Newsom. And I have a really interesting man who joined the show today out of, I believe he's out of Southern California. And he has some interesting things that he wants to share with our audience today. And I really want to encourage folks to support this effort. If you live in California, or if you have family in California, and you've been kind of seeing what's been happening in the state of California for at least the last 5 years, then we have some major problems, and it is up to we the people to make a difference in our state and in our country. And so if we can just get back to the Constitution, then we can make this world a better place. So today I'm being joined this morning by a gentleman named Randy Economy. And with a name like Economy, we could use a guy like that to help fix California's economy. So Randy, how you doing this morning?
You know what? I'm blessed. I'm actually driving right now to Sacramento for a major, huge rally on the steps of the state capitol on Sunday. Some of you probably will be able to join us there, starting at about noon, 1 o'clock. And we're going to have about 30 or 40 different speakers. And we're going to go to Gavin Newsom's front door, so to speak, to take our case, not only to him, but to the people of California, because I don't need to explain to your listeners and to your viewers just what a crisis we're in right now in California, and we live in a democracy. We don't live in a place where elected officials control us. They work for us, and I think people like Gavin Newsom have completely forgotten about that. And just when he put all of us under house arrest for more than just about a year during the quote unquote pandemic, that was telling us who he was as a man, as a politician, as a failed politician. But nonetheless, it was one of those type of things that we should never, ever have to repeat again in our history.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you, Randy. And especially for people who don't really know much about the history of California politics, you'll begin, if you go down some rabbit holes, to find out that some of these politicians are related. In fact, Gavin Newsom, he is the nephew of Nancy Pelosi, and also the, I guess you would say, the godson to the Getty family. And when you learn about...
I know he's related by marriage through a cousin to Nancy Pelosi. So I know that there's always been a lot of talk in regards to the familial relationship, even though it's very apparent. I know it is by marriage, but still the point of the matter is that it's a very incestuous relationship, not only that Newsom has, but with Pelosi and so many others. And again, if you look at the Newsoms and the Pelosi's of the world, I remember when Nancy Pelosi was first running for, Northern California chair of the California Democratic Party. I mean, that was probably had to be at least 40 years ago, when I was probably in my early 20s, and she was an unstoppable force then. And we're just they kind of like scurried into the corner when Nancy did anything, and now she is who she is, and Gavin's been just right along for the ride. So anointment politics is dangerous. I think Gavin, when he was a youngster, and when Willie Brown appointed him to a vacancy on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, he wasn't qualified. It was because he was just part of the pedigree of who he was as this son of a judge, and connected with the Pelosi's. that it was just natural for him to take on a supervisor position in San Francisco, and the rest is where we're at today. So,
Yeah.
he's been around a long, long time. He's not
Yeah.
new to the game,
Yeah.
and we need to remember that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Randy, but I don't think Gavin Newsom has actually had an actual job in his life, a W-2 paid job. Has he just been a politician since the
I think,
womb, or what?
he's certainly married well. I can't fault him for that. His wife is connected to lots of money. They live a very lavish lifestyle. We just held a protest at his house about 3 or 4 months ago, and we, did a protest across the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge, and then we all drove by his home in Marin County, and we were welcomed and greeted kindly, I might say, by a lot of members of the California Highway Patrol who are his personal security detail, who are kind of monitoring our activity throughout the day.
Yeah.
But you know what? He's a, he's not only part of the problem, he is the problem. And you look at, anointment politics, and you look at people who are controlled by people outside of the realm, so to speak. He's the guy. So I'm not intimidated by him. I think he's more intimidated by us. And I think that's why he gets very nervous when the people, not his people, but just the people of California, rise up and participate in democracy on an event like we're putting together at the state capitol this weekend. That's telling. It really, really is telling. And I think if you look at what's happened with the fires in the Pacific Palisades and in the beautiful community of Altadena that took place, he created a political firestorm. And I think those fires were telling of who he was as a man and as a leader. And the flames may have been extinguished, but the devastation that is in that community, in those communities, it'll never be the same. I don't even know
Never be the same.
I don't
Well,
even know how
we're already seeing all the corruption. This is kind of like a Maui situation, Maui 2.0, where
it's crazy.
it was a huge land grab, and now they're
Absolutely.
passing bills in Sacramento allowing them to build low-income housing right on the coastline. I mean, there was multi-million dollar homes there right along the coastline there in the Palisades and Malibu. And they're just shoving those people out, and none of those people are really getting any assistance to either help rebuild or getting any kind of help financially. Do you know much about that?
One of my new friends, somebody that I have a lot of admiration for, who is helping lead the cause in the Palisades, is a woman named Elaine Culati. And Elaine, she was the star for a couple seasons on Undercover Billionaire on Discovery Network. And Elaine lost, I think it was 10 different properties with a value of more than $100 million.
Oh my
And
gosh.
she's out of pocket for that. And I'm not saying because, a poor person that she lost that much property. It can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
And you work hard, you leave the American dream, and then all of a sudden it goes up and it literally goes up in flames. That doesn't mean that the dream's burnt up.
Right.
It means that we had a problem.
Right.
And now we have to fix the problem. And this has become now a political football.
Yeah.
And as much as I appreciate everybody involved in the fight, so to speak, it's the Elaine Colatis of the world who are standing up and saying, no, not on my watch.
Yeah.
So God bless her, and God bless everybody else. Even people like Spencer Pratt. I'm getting to know Spencer on a personal basis, who's kind of a well-known figure who has millions of followers online, and we've been talking back and forth the last couple of days, pretty much nonstop. And he's in Canada this weekend, so he's not going to be able to join us in Sacramento. But he lost everything. And my really dear friend Mel Gibson, who is the chairman of our campaign, he lost everything. And I remember the night that the fires broke out, I had a phone call from Mel himself, and he says, I understand what you're doing on this recall. I want to introduce myself to you. And I said, you don't need to introduce yourself to me. What would you like to do? And he goes, you tell me what you need me to do. I'll help you guys. So
Yeah.
Mel
It's crazy.
very gracious, and he dedicated hundreds of hours of his time to this recall campaign. And he's right now in Rome, Italy, filming the reboot Passion of the Christ called, I believe it's called The Resurrection is the working title.
Resurrection. Yep, that's right.
So,
Yeah, I'm
so
looking
that's what
forward to
he's
that
doing
one.
right now. So Mel sends his love to everybody, and
Hmm.
he's a true friend for life, and I'm just very
Awesome.
blessed that sometimes, like they say, with fire comes blessings, and I've been through a house fire myself, but in a very minor amount. But going up to the Palisades and through Altadena and just driving up there, it's sickening.
Yeah,
There's no reason for it, and nothing's happened.
yeah.
Nothing's happened. I mean,
Hey,
there's just mile after mile after mile of just pure devastation. It's like a nuclear bomb went off.
hey, Randy. Mel spoke recently, I guess it would be a couple months ago now, at a press conference there.
It,
Now,
that was the press conference I held in Altadena, right there at the Burn Center. Yeah.
that's right. That's right. Now, I
And
know.
Mel Gibson is not a press conference kind of guy. Let me tell you that right now. He just doesn't. He hates he hates having to be involved in the media,
Yeah,
and he hates being in the public eye, even though he's very much a public eye figure.
yeah,
It was tough for him. We were going to first hold the press conference in the Palisades. He says it's too close to my home, and I can't emotionally, and a lot of other people just can't do this. Can we move it to Altadena? And I said, sure, that's not a problem. So we
yeah,
accommodated a lot of people's wishes. But Mel is a champion. I love that man. I'll go to the end
yeah.
of the earth for him.
Yeah, obviously he's an artist, right? He's been enacting most of his adult life, and he's I think a truth speaker. He speaks truth, and he hasn't been held back. In fact, Hollywood blacklisted him years back for speaking his mind and calling
Yeah, they
him
did.
anti-Semite and all these other slandering type words. But sometimes if we look ahead now, it's like anytime they don't want people to look in the direction that maybe that person's pointing in, they start to slander and defame those individuals. So I do think Mel is a brave man. He's a brave heart, and
The brave part.
I'm
I'll
sure,
listen. I'll take a bullet for the man. I mean,
right?
I don't say that often about a lot of people, but I'll take a bullet for Mel Gibson any day.
What do you think it would take for Mel to actually put his hat in the ring for governor? Do you think that Mel would even entertain that, or does he really want to keep out of politics?
Well, I'm not going to go ahead and spill some tea here, but he and I have had we've had conversations about that, and I think he's like the least likely person to want to actually serve as governor of California, because I think he feels that he's much more effective being Mel Gibson as opposed to being Mel Gibson the governor.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and I think sometimes that says a lot about a man's character.
sure.
Uh, you can get a lot more accomplished not being in a role, but influencing society and influencing the way we govern. And so I applaud him for that. But I obviously can't speak for him. But in a perfect world, would Mel Gibson be a great governor of California? There's no debate about it. Absolutely.
Yeah, his heart's in the right place, that's for sure.
That's
And it's like California is its own country because it's so big. It's like the fifth or sixth largest economy in the world. It
I
literally is
think,
its own
I
country.
think Gavin's running around bragging now that he made it the fourth largest economy in the world. I
Oh,
mean, I
really?
don't. Yeah, he has nothing to do with that. I mean,
No, 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 no. Yeah, it's all it's a smoke and mirror economy. Like the way that they report numbers, and I mean, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's not the real economy. And I just think that well, let me go back to the gubernatorial race that we have coming up, and we're gonna have some runoffs and things like that with all of the candidates pretty soon.
right?
Do you think Mel is actually going to pay attention to that race and maybe even give an endorsement if he doesn't decide to run himself?
Like I said, I can't speak for Mel. I know that we're all very concerned with the quality of candidates, and as of right now, I'm not real impressed with the quality of candidates who are running at this time on both sides of the aisle.
Hmm.
I think when you start looking at some of the candidates who are polling at 1% and 2%, if you're at that point right now, you basically should have no business running for governor.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people need to take some introspection in regards to the status of their campaigns. It doesn't mean to say to give up, but but to really, how do you get from point A to point B? And I think that's the big thing. If you can't get from point A to point B, you gotta really give yourself a gut check. And,
Mhm.
and yeah, I don't think we're there yet. The democracy is fluid, obviously, but it's you know uh, with Kamala Harris not running now, and I knew she wasn't going to run. That puts all the emphasis now on the Lieutenant Governor Eleni Koulounakis, who is from the same hood, so to speak, as Gavin is, and they're
Yeah.
cut from the same knife, and they have the same political consulting team, and so a lot of stuff is going on behind the scenes that the average person, if they were really to understand, their heads would kind of explode.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's what makes politics and makes democracy so fascinating, so interesting to be involved in. And I'm just
What
very
is what is your belief and perspective when it comes to fair elections in the state of California? Do you think that if the election system was actually transparent and honest, do you think we'd be getting the results? Do you even think we'd be here in a third recall attempt if our elections were actually sound and ran fairly? What do you think?
uh, I think that there is always needs for improvement when it comes to the electoral process. What we have is we have in California we have a decentralized democracy where uh, where we have elections that are run by not one individual with the Secretary of State's office, but by 58 different individual people through their individual counties. I don't know if that's a prudent way to run an election on a statewide basis. Having 58 different counties overseeing 58 different jurisdictions throughout the California without one blanket set of rules. So I think we need to re-examine the way we actually conduct elections, who's responsible for them, and I think that discussion needs to happen immediately. With that being said, um, you know, having run hundreds of people for office in the past, campaigns are filthy. They're awful. And when you get outside interference from the actual county recorder or your individual local city clerk, um, that's when you really start having chaos. I mean, I was involved, believe it or not, in a situation with some elected county clerks in Nevada County for all. Nobody even knows where Nevada County is half the
I
time.
do.
You do, yeah, you do, and I do.
State of
Uh,
Jefferson, baby. State of Jefferson.
there you go. So I was involved in a campaign over there with a lady who was elected county clerk, and it was a scam.
Yeah.
But she won, and uh, the electoral process in California is very dark. It's very it needs to change. Hopefully, with our establishment of Saving California, we can continue to be a leading voice for change. But we have to decentralize. We got to get rid of this decentralization of this voting system here in California. We just have too many fingers in the pie. We need to have a solid way to be able to conduct these elections and to count these votes on a consistent basis. We don't need 58 different types of voting machines. We need one type of voting machine. We maybe need paper ballots again. We need a lot of different things to happen.
Yeah.
And I could probably spend 3 or 4 hours on upcoming
Yeah.
podcasts to go ahead and figure out how to solve the democracy problem. But it is a crisis, and we have to centralize it.
Yeah. No, I just had actually Dr. Doug Frank on my show, and he
Sure.
goes all around the country trying to help people get a hold of their election systems by going from precinct to precinct, county to county to clean out their voter rolls before the
Oh yeah.
elections. Before
Well,
the elections,
these voter rolls are a mess.
they're a
But
mess.
they've been abreast for 50 years. I mean,
I,
this isn't anything new.
he's
Uh,
a
and that's our fault. That's my fault. That's your fault. That's everybody's fault that we allowed this system to. We,
Well, we were
you
hoodwinked years ago into believing, oh, if we can have machines, it makes our lives efficient and better. In fact, it's just made us more vulnerable for fraud and for manipulation, both domestic and international. And
have you
so,
have you done this touchscreen voting yet?
No, I haven't done. I
I,
do paper.
I tried that for the very first time this last election here in Riverside County. What a farce that is.
Yeah,
It's like,
no, I don't trust. It's like
it's like they turn it into like a freaking video game.
that's like going to. Come on,
Congratulations, you are now eligible to vote online now. And I was just like, stop the bullshit.
come on,
You know?
Randy. That's like going to a casino and actually trusting that the electronic slot machines are going to work in your favor. Come on
Hey, wait a
now.
minute, wait. I love going to casinos down here. Long Spring. You
Well,
mean
you
to tell me
know,
they're not real?
no, there's so much psychology that's going on
Okay.
into that's a whole rabbit hole into itself as far as like
Yeah, there you
programming the human psychology. But you know what, California though, shame on us, right? Especially if you're a native here, and especially if you're like
go.
a boomer or older and you've been here. Nothing against boomers. My parents are boomers, but it's like we have been led down this path to where we are now as a super majority. That's very unfair. And I'm gonna. I know you keep saying that we're a democracy. I actually think we're a republic, because if we were a true democracy, then LA and San Francisco and all the dense populated areas would always win elections over small rural counties. That's why I
Yeah,
think it makes it fair for even the smallest counties to have a voice in the republic. So I'm more for restoring our republic. And
yeah,
the California Constitution has been revised, I think, over 100 times, just so people can get the things that they want out of the politics of California. And so I would just say that this has been a long road that has cans kicked down it for a long time, probably before Willie Brown, Gray Davis. I mean, those guys were doing
sure, sure.
deals with Enron and
Yeah,
all these scandals. And it just seems like we should stop playing politics in California when it comes to party loyalty, because I'm finding out there's only people who are like Republican in name only or independent in name only, that you got to really follow the money, follow the bloodline, see exactly what they've done in their careers to actually earn your vote. Because I mean, I just think that we've been totally scammed by people on both sides. Arnold Schwarzenegger, I mean, he didn't really accomplish much at all.
no,
And
no,
so,
he was a phenom in politics. I mean, let's give the guy some credit. I mean,
yeah,
he was the most popular man in the world, and he decided to turn that into a political gig, and he was very successful, and he was successful because of Democrats, and he was
yeah.
successful, not just because of Gray Davis going down.
Yeah, that's true. No, I give him that. I will give him that, Randy. You're right. And that's kind of the point I'm making, is like we almost need like a disruptor, like somebody who's not necessarily a pure Republican or pure Democrat, somebody that actually can bring the people together, because there's a lot of information now that are unifying Californians when it comes to things like wildfires, gas prices, real estate taxation. All kinds of things are affecting Californians now. The illegal migration into the state, making sanctuary cities, and they're now turning out to be extremely unsafe. And obviously, they're able to live off the dole of the taxpayer, with medical being covered and housing and everything else. So I just think there's a lot of things that could unify California if we can find somebody that can pull that off. What do you think?
There is, and there's a couple of people that I have in the back of my mind who might be able to walk in and fill that role immediately. I'm not going to mention names right now, but there's a couple of individuals that I'm incredibly impressed with who have yet to officially enter the race for governor. But I think there's hope on the horizon. Um,
Awesome.
and I don't say that lightly, and I say that with conviction, and I say that with a lot of hope. We can't continue down this road, and I don't want to bash Republicans or Democrats right now, but we live in a one-party state.
Hmm.
There really is no Republican Party in California, because if there was, they would have more than 6 or 7 members of the state Senate, and more than 15 or 16 members of the state assembly that are from those ranks. So you can't say we have an opposition party when there's not enough people to make a difference on anything. So I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm a no party preference kind of guy. Um, I worked really hard, very close with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I was Bobby's senior advisor when he ran for president. Mr. Kennedy feels the same way I do on a lot of things, and there's a big frustration there
Yeah.
on both political parties
Yeah.
that they're just not meeting the needs of the people.
No. No,
So
it's really dividing people over like these really nominal, societal differences. But when in fact it's like the whole boiling the frog, in a cauldron of water. They just get us distracted when the water is nice and comfortable, and then before we know it, we're boiling. And
right now I'm driving through, I don't know what part I'm in, San Bernardino right now, and I just saw gas at a Chevron station for $6.40 a gallon.
come on,
Um,
people, we can't afford to live like this.
we
California,
can't
wake
do this,
up,
man.
wake
Wake
up.
up. Yep, we can't do this. $6.40 and a Chevron right off the freeway here.
Not good.
I may
No,
be
not
blind,
good.
but I can see. I may be blind, but I can see a few things here and there. So
Yeah. No, there's so much, there's so much for people to be upset about, but you can't just be armchair quarterbacks. You got to get into the fight. At least if you could make it to Sacramento this Sunday, August 3rd, that's tomorrow, and show up between like noon, maybe noon and 1 o'clock, and be there and make your presence
there till
known.
about 3 or 4, and got about 25, 30 speakers lined up. One person who's going to be speaking is again Elaine Kulati, and what a remarkable story she's going to tell in regards to losing so much of her life and so much of the bullshit that's going on right now to be able to not rebuild the Palisades.
Yeah.
And it's just not about the Palisades, it's about other places that have mass fires. And why did Gavin basically wait 3 days before he had the first super scooper show up to start putting out the flames? I mean, there's just so many. We know why. He just is not honest with us, and he kept saying, "Well, I'm waiting for Joe Biden to help me. And I'm waiting for a phone call from Joe Biden," and no, he wasn't.
Well,
It was much more
let's talk about the why, Randy. I'm not afraid on this show to talk about the why, and a lot of my viewers. I mean, we're done with being called conspiracy theorists, because for anybody who's paying attention to what's going on, not only in California but the rest of the country and the world, it
Yes,
just seems
yes.
like these are controlled, implanted people who are politicians working for a global society, a global elite, and what they've done. And Karen Bass. She was caught on a recording days before the fire. She knew that she was going to leave the country. She knew that something was coming. There was a reason why the reservoir had no water in it for no fire hydrants. So there was a fleet of fire trucks that had been down for multiple months. And then when the fire chief spoke up about it, she was instantly fired within 24 hours because she spilled the
24 hours
beans.
spoke up. Yep.
Yeah, and so you guys, these are controlled demolitions of area, and anytime these problems happen in the state of California, most oftentimes they want to blame the utility companies, so that way they
Yep.
can raise prices on the consumer for the commodity and try to get bailout money if they could deem it a natural disaster, and get federal funding in most cases. That's why President Trump is like, you ain't getting a dime from us right now until we can figure out what's going on. So I just think that something nefarious is going on, Randy, and it almost seems like the Palisades fire could have been planned. What do you think?
I don't want to speculate. That's not what I do or who I am. I live in a very, I don't want to say black and white world when it comes to politics, but I know how things can be manipulated, and I know the power of elected officials and what
Yeah,
they can and can't do. And I'll just kind of keep my comments to that.
that's all
Uh,
right, Randy. I won't put you under any buses
I
on
don't,
this
I don't
first
put it, I
episode.
don't, yeah, I don't put anything past anybody. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, that's the way. Hey, if we can get everybody to at least think with a clear conscience and open mind and question things, that's where we could begin. I understand your position, Randy, and I won't put you on the spot on any of that stuff. But
And
anyways, brother, hey, I really appreciate you joining the show
well, I
today.
appreciate you having me on board. I thank you for, listen, the only way we can change democracy is to, get involved. I mean, politics is a contact sport, and it's not a bad sport to be involved in. Politics is a very noble profession. getting involved in democracy is a very noble thing to do. It's not a dirty thing. And I think sometimes people think that, oh God, you're involved in politics. It's just so seedy. It's not. It's a very noble thing to do if you have your priorities right. So thank God for people like you.
Oh, thank you, brother. No, I appreciate that. You're totally right. I think that if you don't at least pay attention to what's happening in politics and exercise your vote, many people had shed their blood in order to preserve that right to cast your vote. So people need to look at it differently than they have before. But it's so important to get involved. Otherwise, you're just going to be a statistic because other people will take advantage of the fact that you are not voting and they are going to dictate what happens with your wallet, with your livelihood, with your freedom. We all lived through COVID. We knew what they tried to do to us during those years. And I don't want to ever have to go through something like that ever again. So,
Don't ever want to have to be a guy to have a card in my pocket saying that I've been vaccinated to be able to go ahead and buy a loaf of bread.
no.
Never again.
No, no,
Nope.
no. Yeah, that's something that I thought was just history back in the 40s that they were doing to people,
Yeah,
showing your papers. That's nonsense.
that shit don't fly no more.
Yeah, that's right, Randy. Hey, brother, I want you to drive safe, and if I can get
Thank
out
you.
there to Sacramento tomorrow, I will come up and shake your hand, introduce myself.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
All right, Randy, enjoy your drive to Sacramento.
Bye bye.
That is our obligation, to inform and alert the American people, to make certain that they possess all the facts that they need and understand them as well, the perils, the prospects, the purposes of our program, and the choices that we face.